Good evening and welcome to the second EuroLeague podcast. Week one wasn't too bad. It's a little bit frustrating that most of the lineups, especially the first couple of games, didn't come out until after lock. So Pangos would have been an outstanding play if we knew that he was playing and even starting. And cheers to those of you who had the cojones to put him in your starting lineup and reap the benefits from him. But this week's a little weird. It's kind of upsetting to me because I had today off, so I had plenty of time to study stuff, and it's an unbalanced schedule this week. When I first pulled up the DraftKings and looked at it, there are 4 games on Thursday and 5 on Friday. Now it's been changed to 3 games on Thursday and 6 games on Friday. So Friday's going to be a pretty big slate. So we're going to look at Thursday's slate right now. We're going to start with CSK taking on MTA. CSK lost to Barcelona 76-66. It was a little bit closer than the score came out to be at the end. Mike James and Shangela did a good job in that game. In real basketball, I know James was kind of disappointing with the amount of points he scored. He came back at only 17 DK points. So when you're paying over 10K for a player, that's definitely not what you're looking for. But Barcelona had some Abrians really stepped up and took over the game late and pretty much led them to the victory. So CSK right now has actually 3 players out with COVID. It is Antonov, Stralinkus, and the guy I couldn't pronounce last week is Emilio Tinov. But they still have a lot of good players on this team, and it doesn't look like anybody else is affected. So just looking at their roster, the front court's pretty much said it's kind of disappointing, even without Milutinov. Last time, looks like Voigtman and Kurbanov got the start. They also started domestically over the weekend. Pretty much actually the same starting 5 that started in EL last week, including Shagela, Yukovic, and Mike James, are the same ones that started for them when they played domestically. Yukov, Ivan, the point guard, very, very cheap for a starter, but guy only played limited amount of minutes last time. It was really, it only produced 4 DK points. He played 6 minutes, so even though he's starting, definitely not somebody I'm looking at this time. I played 15 minutes in domestic play, but still only 7 points, very, very few stats. So looking at this team, definitely the one I'm going to target would be Shigella. I know they're up against a good defense with MTA, but I think that he will have a really good game. Will Clyburn, I think this is more of a GPP until he gets there. 91's a good price for him, but I'm looking for a little bit more than 16 points he got. I think he could probably get 20, but that's not enough for value. Backing up a little bit, usually in NBA you're looking anywhere from 5 to 10x value. These games are 8 minutes shorter. The rotations are tighter. But actually not tighter. Sometimes some teams will play actually 12 guys, so we actually want to find teams that have a tight rotation because minutes definitely equal points. Can't score if you're not on the floor. But basically here I'm looking for 2.5x for cash and up to 3x for GPP. That's where I'm comfortable, and I just don't think that Clyburn can get there. But Shingala, I'm pretty confident in him. Mike James, I'll give him a shot in cash again. I just think the first week was an anomaly. But there are 2 other guys on the team that I definitely would consider for cash. Hackett and Hilliard, both are really good defenders, so they pick up some stats there. Hilliard's your typical 3-and-D guy. He's one of the best 3-point threats in the EuroLeague. The prices are right around 7, right in that mid-range, 7 and 7.2. Definitely can see them. They got 18 to 17 points. Definitely see them repeating that, right on the fringe of the cash line. But if you're looking for some mid-range fill-ins, there definitely some good guys to look at. So CSK is favored in this game. It's got the lowest total on the the slate at 159.5, which I think there's another game that was tied with the same amount. So, but you got two really good teams, so I'm not gonna. They can be defensive, they can be offensive. It could swing either way. It should be a close game, so I don't think there's a blowout factor. So definitely some people to target here. Maccabi didn't play any domestic games this week. Last year they were one of the top D, and they won pretty easily in Berlin in the first round, but Berlin's not the greatest game. So Zizic got the start, but he really didn't do good. I fell into the Dragan Bender trap last game also. He played, but limited. I see some reports saying that he just isn't in like game shape yet, so I'm sure that will come eventually. But who did do well last week is Othello Hunters stepped up. He played really well. He had like 23 minutes. Rio Angelo, he came off the bench and he really had a good game. He played 31 minutes, so 78% of the minutes played. So that's some excess usage. He almost hit 4.5 value last time. So he's definitely somebody. It looks like that they're using the offense this year, so I can definitely recommend him for cash. Not interested in Zizic or Bender until I actually see something out of there. If you want to try him in a GPP, that's fine, but Bender at 7-1, that's just too expensive to want to try without knowing what's going to happen. Hunter, he's solid. Like him, he'll get you like anywhere from 20 to 25 points. At 8-3, that's definitely where I'm looking. One guy I want to keep my eye on, did really good in the preseason. He had like 7.5 DK points the first time out, only 15 minutes. He did play a little bit longer. I thought he would, but if you're looking for a value play at 36, Oz Blazer, definitely somebody in GPPs I'm going to keep my eye on, or if I'm doing a stack of something, or I have like a lot of high value players and I just want to throw in like somebody in there. It looks like he's getting some run. He's on a decent team in a good spot, so definitely somebody that I could throw in as a GPP dart. Chris Jones, talked about him last week. Was pretty high on him, had some shares of him, and he was hot. He almost came back at 5x. He put up 23 DK points at almost a minimum. Got a little price increase. He's up to 5K. But I definitely, think that even if he has half his production out there, even if he comes back at like 12 to 15 points at 5K, I mean, that's going to get you there. So definitely somebody, if you're looking for just above value, I'm looking for like anywhere around 4K or less, like maybe, but 5K, definitely a price that I like there. Elijah Bryant, Dorsey, great players. They played really well last year when a lot of bodies were out, but having everybody there but Zuzman, who's out again, he's going to be out for a while, it seems. Not too interested in them. But just too expensive, and just they could be hot. I mean, these are great GPP darts if you want to stack this team and throw them in, but as one-offs, I just can't recommend it. Scotty Wilbeck, he was let down too. Came back with 21 points for DK. He had 28 minutes, scored 7 points, 6 rebounds. Like, he's not your typical like guard. Got some assists, but like no defensive stats, steals, blocks. It's only game 1, so I'm gonna give him a cash play again for this week, but definitely not somebody that I'm like on my short list, somebody that I'm targeting, somebody I'm trying to get in my lineups. If for some reason I'm building a line, or if I'm stacking Maccabi or stacking this game, and he fits, I'll take him. But other than that, unless there's something comes up that like Bryant or Dorsey or somebody else is like sitting, then definitely not somebody I'm going after. Next up, we have Efes and Fenerbahce. This is both of them are Turkish teams, so it's not too far from each other. It's not Derby; they're not in the same city, but definitely, league rivals in the Turkish league. Efes did not play. Oh, actually, they did. They did have a domestic game this week. So the biggest question, and it might come to a surprise to some, I thought Larkin was ready to go last time, but he wasn't. He's still questionable, and he's the most expensive player on the slate. So honestly, if he does play this game, he's GPP for me. I think they're going to work him in slow. I know they lost the first game. Uh, they were the best team in the league. I think they only lost 4 games last year before the COVID shutdown, and Zent was the worst team in the league. They and Zalgiris just kept on trading the basement. Um, but they came out and they played really really well. I think what really hurt Ephes last time was like their bench. They like nobody really came out and helped them. So if Larkin starts, uh, or if he's in the mix, I think that's going to hurt some people. But I honestly don't think he gets full run. He didn't play domestically, but again, I don't think you can really look at that because domestically he's an American player, and the rule in Turkey is for domestic play you have to have so many Turkish players play, and you can have very few non Turkish players on your roster. So you seldom see some of like the stars play for domestic. They have 1 or 2 like international players on the roster, but they usually don't um, play some of the bigger names just so they can get the minutes in for some of their other guys. So Mormon started, Anderson started, Please started, and Simon and Mikic. So I think Mikic's a great play again in cash. He got there. He had like 31 points last time, DK points. Does a little bit of everything. Last year he was injured and like had kind of a slow start. And there are some weeks where he was like James was last week, where you pay over 10K for him and you only get like 12 points, which is very disappointing. But I think like Fenerbahce is a decent matchup for him, and if Larkin is definitely out, I think he's definitely somebody to put in there. Would be a high priority. If Larkin is playing, I still think he's playable in cash. I If Larkin is out, I like Babios too. He had a really good game. He and Mormon were pretty much the only ones off the bench that were worth anything in this game, and I think if Larkin is in, I think that really hurts him. So if you see that Larkin is going to play, then I wouldn't play him. But whether he starts or not, I think he's kind of like their 6th man, or maybe like their 7th man, if you consider Mormon like their 6th man. But definitely a spark plug off the bench, ton of energy. Kind of like a Lou Williams for the Clippers. Definitely somebody that I could target in cash there and feel comfortable with it. Very few people in EL do I feel comfortable starting in cash if they aren't actually starting, but he's one that definitely can do. Simon, I have a love-hate relationship with him. Like several times last year, he was like really, really good, and times where he just kind of completely disappear. It's a deep team; it makes sense. But again, if Larkin's out, I think that he's definitely someone you can play in cash. Looking at the front court, the only one I would like in cash is Mormon, and that's a fringe play. I had my hesitations for him last week. I listed him as a fade just based on last season, but uh, he played decent the first game, so I definitely 6'5" a little steep, but I could see him in cash. I'm fading the whole rest of this lineup, both centers. Pleased and Sinili. I mean, they're tall guys. They're really good at basketball, but they just really didn't give them any stats. Both of them scored under 10 DK points, and I know they're only 46 and 42. So I mean, it's not that expensive. Actually, Police is 76. I'm reading the line wrong, but Sen Lily, he played really well last year when like Police was out and injured. So unless you see him out, like I don't think there's really much value there. Dunstan Singleton, they had horrible games too. Both of them under 12 points. And when you're paying like anywhere from 6, 7 to 8K for them, that's not going to do it. They're good players. They might be able to figure it out. So again, if you're stacking them like in GPPs, I'm fine. But other than that, I really don't have any interest in those two. I definitely think that they'll be able to rebound and have a better game against Fenerbahce. But again, I think it'll be a close game. They're favored by 3, and it has the same total as the other game, 159.5, which isn't horrible. I've seen games at like 154 in some years for this league. So looking at Fenerbahce again, a Turkish team, they did play domestically. The one thing that's the big note here is Westerman's still going to be out for a little bit of time. He's a tall guard. He's a good playmaker, so they're definitely going to miss them. But they definitely have a lot of depth at guard here. Lorenzo Brown was fabulous. He picked up right where he left off. Was wondering how he would do on a bigger team this year after playing for a lower team last year, where he was pretty successful, but he seemed to fit in well. Nando was a couple of years ago, like between he and Cheved, and when Doncic was in the league, and also Cathias, like there were like so many, like he was like up there. It was always like, which one are you going to pick? And last year he was kind of down a little bit. I think it worked out best when he and Sergio Rodriguez were on the same team, and then that was like super hard because one of them would start and one of them wouldn't, and one of them would get a lot of minutes and one of them wouldn't. But he's a great player. He had a great week last week. He had 26 DK points, almost 27. He's below 10K, so definitely someone that I could see playing in cash again this week. Definitely think he can hit value. Samuel, like Larkin and James are so high priced, and they have super high ceilings, but they're just like James Harden, where they can get you a lot of pure points, or sometimes if they get shut down, or if their shots off, they're scoring dependent. They're not going to pick up a lot of what Harden does. He can get some defensive rebounds and things like that, but DeColo's a good player, especially I like him off the ball too. As I think he's playing more too, with Lorenzo playing like point guard, but when he's getting 71% of the minutes, he played 28 and Brown played 31, and that's definitely healthy. He had some steals, he had like almost 7 assists, he had 3 rebounds, hit a 3, so definitely like the two of them. Meli Mamutuk, he's also a guard. He's only 4,400. I think he's a good value play if you are looking for something. He only had 5 DK points last time, but this guy to keep an eye on, especially if there's any injuries or if you see any point during the season, just mark it down if you're making notes. But here's kind of Muhammad would actually kind of stage him. He came out, and I'm actually looking at it now, like Muhammad definitely off the bench did really good last time. 13 minutes, and in 13 minutes, like he was a point per minute guy. So 51, that's definitely a value play to look at. So Barthel has a sore back, so he's questionable for the game. I thought he was a good cash play last week. He did come back. He only had like 12 DK points. Like last year, he was pretty much consistent, like 16. So if I knew he was 100% healthy, I'd give him another shot in cash. But at this point, I think he's just a GPP only. So that begs the question: who is going to benefit if he is out? I think Vesely is definitely a lock. He had a great game last week. He was at 2.6x, 24 DK points. Definitely can see him repeating that. 92 looks probably one of the higher price, but it's not over 10K for a forward. But definitely, if you're going to spend up, I think he's definitely a priority there. Might pick up a little bit if Barthel is out. So the question is, who will pick up the slack? So you have Pierre, you have Eddie, and you have Hamilton. None of them had the greatest game. last week. I think the highest scoring one with 8 DK points was Pierre. Eddie and Hamilton actually got the start domestically. Again, that doesn't mean much. That's a completely different thing. So I can't read into like who doesn't play domestically or who does play, because like Nando didn't play domestically. But looking at it, see your stat lines here for domestic play. Eddie got 26 minutes. I mean that's really good. Hamilton only had 19. Eddie scored 13 points. Hamilton had 4. Eddie had some rebounds, some assists. So definitely someone at only 4K, if he gets a start, definitely somebody that might have my eye on. It's the second game, so it's not like we're going to know in the beginning of our lineups if he's playing or not, but maybe a placeholder if you have got another value player that you can swap in late game or something, if you're looking for. Especially if you see he's getting the start, it definitely could smash the 4. Probably get like up to like, I don't think he's going to break the slate, but I can see like 3K value for him. Okay, last game that we have is going to be Real Madrid, and they are taking on Valencia. And first game out, Real didn't play any league game. They lost to Baskonia in one of the closest. The game was pretty close, but they lost in the fourth quarter. Henry went off on them for Baskonia. Had a great game. This is a Spanish derby. They're very close in proximity, so definitely a little bit extra wanting to win. And sometimes when you see these national games where the teams from the same nation, sometimes you can kind of throw the records out, and even though it's like the first game of the season, you can see someone looking to perform better. So injury front says Reyes and Taylor are still doubtful. Reyes is dealing with an ankle. Taylor, we have no idea what's going on with him. Lou is practicing again. Again, he's kind of like Larkin, where if he does, like he was the MVP like I think 3, 4, 5 years ago. So he's a great player. He's good at basketball, but getting kind of up there in age, I believe. So he's not one that I think is going to come back from injury and jump in and be like a huge contributor. I think he'll assimilate back into his role, and they definitely need him for like his like experience and leadership on this team. But as I look at the team overall, I was kind of surprised that Ebaldi got the start last time out. I thought that it would I thought they'd probably give it to like Reyes or somebody else, but there are a lot of underwhelming performances on this. Like I can see Randa for Ebaldi, possibly in GPAPs. They played 20 and 18 minutes, but the rest of this front court really didn't do much. Probably the most disappointing player was Dak. Like he had some great games. He only came up with 10 DK points and 20. That was like half a point a minute out there. But again, this is one of the front courts where it's hard to play. They're so deep. They have so many talented people. This is a super team. They put together the best of the best, and there's not as many minutes to go around, and there's only one basketball, so it's kind of hard sometimes. So looking at it, like Tisma, Coster, Dak, Rudy Fernandez, Trey Tompkins, Garba. He's actually a teenager that he's going to be the future of the team. So if you ever see Usama Garaba starting, then he's definitely one to lock in, because they love playing him, but that'll probably be in garbage time later in the season, or we'll see some double game weeks coming up where if you see rotation and like a lot of the other bigs are out or sitting and resting, he's one that could smash. Tavares, he's usually pretty solid. He's a little underwhelming the first one. He did come up with 21 DK points. That was only like 2.18x. It's GPP because he can get there. He's got a high ceiling, but his floor is too low for me to play in cash. So looking at the rest of the guards, again, I said Lou if he plays. If I throw him at Dart at 66 with the talent and experience, but I think they work him in. But I think that if he does play, that hurts Carroll and Lapro. If neither one of them had a great first game, Carroll had like 11 points, and Lapro, he only had like 3 DK points in 10 minutes. So, but my man, the guy that I absolutely love on this team is Campazzo. He was my dude last year, played him many times, got cash. I'll have to look at my construction with a 3-game slate with only 6 teams. But I just always feel like, he came back at 3x last week, and I always feel that like he's solid with like everything that he can do in any matchup. It seems to be a great matchup for him. So definitely one of my favorite plays. Looking last week, he had some 3-pointers. He had 16 real points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. So definitely, if you can stay out of foul trouble, and I don't really fear if Lula is back, him cutting into his minutes or his production. So he's basically the only cash play I can really recommend on this. Might be a little bit of blowout there. Real is favored by 7.5 points. It has the highest total on slate, but again, there's only 3 games, and the other one's like 159, so it's only a 2-point difference. So it's not super different, but both teams played with a decent pace last year. So again, it's hard to target a lot of these Real guys, but I really do like Campazzo, and I think there's some other options possibly. We'll have to see how if there's any like breaking news or anything, if any of the rest of these guys are out. Any surprises might open up some value and make me feel a little bit more confident on his team. But again, it'll only be like a Balde Randolph and Traveris or the other ones I consider. Well, finally, moved on to Valencia. Valencia did play a domestic game, and one mystery here that I'm trying to figure out is what is going on with Fernando San Emeritiro. Not to be confused with Sam Van Rossum. There's a couple 3 named guys on this team, and so Fernando SE didn't play at all, which I didn't see any designation or anything, a reason why he wouldn't play. Nothing was noted anywhere why he didn't play in round 1, but he did pick up 11 minutes and not great numbers. He had like 4 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 0 turnovers in the 11 minutes. So maybe there's some kind of injury or something. They're trying to work him back in. So, but he is a talented player, and he's at 5K, which is a little high for a value dart that I'd throw in. And one thing I keep on saying in EL is this is one I cashed many cash slates last year, and even some GPPs, throwing in a sub 5K player, even sometimes a sub 4K player, and not caring if they got a 0 or not, because it opened up so much salary above for the rest of the roster that I was able to, with the other players I picked, score so many points that the 0 didn't matter. But with that 0, like you don't never want to take somebody that's not going to play. You always want to hope that there's some upside, and this one's too dangerous. But down the road, he's one to keep an eye on. Anyways, looking at the playable players on this team, Duluvik, he burned me last week. I was high on him. I had a lot of shares of him, got in some early foul trouble, and he didn't do well at all. I think he only had like 13 DK points. He was like 1.5x, so very disappointing. Snowflaked on a DK. I'm okay going back to well in cash. I know it's a tough matchup, and Real has a tough backcourt for them to play against, but I'm willing to give him. He's a great player. He had some really good numbers last year. I'm really Derek Williams, on the other hand, he did really well. He was almost like at 3x, almost 25 DK points. He's at 8.7. I think definitely somebody to lock in the front court. Definitely solid for the price there. Other ones, Luis Labier, not interested in him. He only had like 60K points. Toby, I marked him as cash last week, and I think he got there in cash because Dube did so poorly and was in foul trouble, and he got some of his minutes. But yeah, he actually played 21 minutes to Dulovik's 15. So I don't think he plays as many minutes. But even in domestic play, like neither Duluvik or Toby started, but Bojan Duluvik played 21 minutes and Toby played 18 minutes, and Bojan scored 14 and Mike Toby scored 8. Mike Toby had like 6 rebounds, so I mean, for the difference in price, you're talking from like 8-6 down to like 7. I think it's comparable, like the amount of stats that he got. So definitely when it comes to backups, he's definitely somebody that I like playing. Again, he's not somebody I would be a priority, but if you have like 72, 71, 7,000 left in your forward slot, and you're looking through the options, he's definitely one that I have no problem putting back in there. Clinic, on the other hand, is 67, and he's very underwhelming. Like last year, there's so many times that he like snowflaked. I played him only a couple times, but I just saw other people's had him in their line. It was snowflake after snowflake. Like he just seems like he's overpriced. He should be about 5K, and then he'd probably hit value. But GPP for him. Not interested in any other floaters. Sastre is out, so I mean that could be big. So it looks like Labier got the start for Sastre. Domestically, he played 22 minutes, and he did have 13 points, but I mean, that's not against the competition that he's up against. So I guess you could say he's a GPP if he does start, and that's the only way that I would play him. But I think the person that might really benefit is Prepperlick. Kimian Prepperlick. He's a shooting guard. He was like a forward on DK last week. Now they moved him to guard because that's what his position is. He did get to start over the weekend in domestic, and he had a great stat line. He had 10 points, he had 4 assists, a rebound, 2 steals. So, and he's 4,100. So he might be my value lock of the week. Should he get the start here? Even if he doesn't, I think he definitely puts up. Because Sastre is like a small forward, but he played a lot of the 2, and I think this is definitely someone that to keep an eye on. Hermansen, he was a good player last year. I think he was played for Berlin, but he had a really poor outing the first time out. He played 21 minutes, and actually he didn't play 21. He had 13 minutes. Prepperlick had 21 minutes. But I don't know if he's just getting accustomed to the system. He might start. I think it's fool's gold. If you see him starting, I think that moves him to a GPP. But until I see what he does and what his role is, I'm not going to pay 75 for him. Column is Quino Column. He's a mystery because he played a lot last year, and I don't see anything about him like injured, but he was inactive. Last week, he was a DNP coach's decision on domestic. I don't know if he's just out of shape or he just doesn't gel well with like some of the new players they brought in, or what's going on with him. But not somebody that I would recommend playing. He's definitely 100% hardcourt fade. Even if you do see him in the lineup, I highly doubt he would start. Sam Van Rossum, I thought he had a lot of potential, but he really struggled this game. Put him as GPP just to see if he can figure things out. I don't know if it's like the balance of all the rest of the guards here, and the other factor is Markovic. Vaniha Man Kromvik is coming back, and he's ready to play. He didn't play at all domestically, but I think there's an opportunity there also for him to eat into some of the minutes. So got a lot of options, and again, if you check us out on FSIDFS.com, there's EL is going to be free for the rest of the month, so hit us up there, and hopefully we'll see some green screens, and we'll see what we can get out for tomorrow. I don't know if I'll have enough time to break down for a whole video.